Welcome, everybody. Let's get you all in here. We'll see how many people I'm going to get to see versus how many people are in their pajamas and um, hiding off camera, or maybe not, right? In their pajamas, but here and showing their face. Yes. Yep. I'm like half in my pajamas. I have pajama bottoms on and then a normal sweater. Although we should do a pajama Zoom sometime, shouldn't we? I know we've got different time zones, but hi Anna, hi Ann and Matt. I see you there. It's really lovely to put a face to your names. And Matt, was that you that sent me the poem? Shake your head, yes, if it was. I see you in the background. Yeah, it was really beautiful. It was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. Let's see. Okay. I'm glad you're here. Hi, Oma. I see you. Nice to see you. Yes. And oh my goodness, it looks like somebody's outside. Um, Hope, are you outside? No. Oh, okay, you have a scarf on. I thought, oh my goodness, she looks like, is she, you look like you're standing at a storefront or something. Yeah. Anyway, welcome everyone. This is sort of informal Zoom, and just sort of we're going to see how we can do a conversation here. And please don't worry for those of you who were like, "Oh no, what are you doing a Zoom at 9 o'clock at night? It's too late." I'm just playing around with times. I have folks from Australia who write to me all the time and say, could you please do, yeah, Carolyn from New Zealand, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I get a lot of emails from people in Australia and New Zealand saying, could you please do one at a time that we can join? And I'm sensitive to that. So I know this is a little tricky for those in the UK or over in the European countries, but thank you, Terry. Um, but don't worry, it's not going to be all the time. I'll kind of go back and forth. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. I generally pick times that work for me because that's what happens in your wisdom years, right? You think, okay, if I'm going to do something and I'm going to do something I love, it's going to be even more joyful if I do it when at a time that works for me. So, and I'm also, sensitive to your needs as well. So thank you everybody for being here. Let's just start like we normally do. I feel like these days, learning to be present or just practicing being present is so important because the world is crazy right now. I mean, it just feels crazy to me, um, and I know it does to a lot of people. And so I keep reminding myself throughout the day, come back to the present moment, be very mindful about what you subject yourself to. Make sure you get good rest, you take good care of yourself, you move your body every day, the kind of basics of self-care when we're under stress. I'm always returning to that. We can even talk about some of that if you want tonight. It's up to you. But let's start by just getting into a comfortable position and removing any distractions so that you're able to be present for yourself, really come home to yourself and be here. Um, Give yourself the gift of your own company, please. So take a moment to just close your eyes, remembering that closing your eyes automatically invites your brain to start making alpha waves, and that's what's going to help to calm your body down. So closing your eyes is a really good thing. It just sort of shuts out the stimulation of the world, some of it anyway. And then as you do that, you want to just slow your breathing down a little bit. Don't go to sleep on me, but just slow your breathing down. And in order to support the parasympathetic nervous system and kicking in, if you extend your exhale, your body's going to relax even more. So you can just notice how long your inhale is, and then just slow your exhale down and let it be a little longer. That's it. And you can also notice what your senses pick up in the room. What are you hearing? What are you feeling in terms of your body in contact with furniture? Are there any scents in the room? Tune into your body and notice where there's tension and breathe into that tension. Let it relax a little more. That's good. And just notice as you continue to breathe how your thoughts start to settle down. The mind starts to get a little quieter for some of us. Just let the mind do what it does. And you can connect with the one behind the mind, the one that's noticing what your mind is doing, noticing you sitting in the chair, almost as though you could rise above yourself and look down and see yourself. Think of that version of you as your higher self, the consciousness separate from the busy mind. It's beautiful. Just let yourself enjoy this gift of presence. And if you find yourself with a busy mind, here's a little trick you can play. I want you to just take a minute to focus on the question, I wonder what my next thought will be. Just imagine focusing on looking for what might my next thought be. Stay focused on being curious about your next thought. When you focus on what your next thought might be, you may notice that your mind settles down. It actually comes right into this present moment. And in this moment, everything's okay. And when you're ready, You can slowly bring yourself back to this room with a big smile. Go ahead, show those teeth. Big smile. Yes, that's it. That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see you. Good job, Jean. I just saw you do that. Yes, that's great. Smiling is a good thing. I'm always saying that. Smiling is really important, especially when you're feeling stressed out or anxious. You all look so peaceful every time. I'm watching the gallery view when I'm sort of leading this little mini process, and I always it just for those of you who have your cameras on, it always looks like you are experienced meditators. You just look so peaceful. I thought, my goodness, I better bring them back before they fall asleep. Hello, fearless Donna. I see you there, sweetie. All right, so let's see. I don't really have anything planned except I did, well, that's not true. I do, in that, I'm assuming read, no, Jean, don't go to sleep now. Stay awake. She's there yawning. I see you. Terry, you can go ahead and spotlight. Sorry. Um, um, I know, I'm assuming a lot of you read this last week, this past blog where I was talking about some of the things that um, a lot of the topics that we just don't have a chance to talk about as we reach midlife and beyond. It's kind of I think in some ways, it's kind of the truth for humanity, right? A lot of us grow up in family systems where people don't talk about the truth of what's going on in the family system or talk about history or, what happened in our family history. We're really good at not talking about things. And when we don't talk about the truth, well, let me say, when we don't feel like we have a safe place to talk about the truth of what's happening in our lives, how we're feeling, how we're experiencing life, then we really miss out on something important, and that is intimacy, feeling connected to one another on a basic, vulnerable human level. And if you've ever been in a situation, maybe you've been out to dinner or in a class, or let's say you might be in a yoga class and somebody suddenly starts crying. And you can notice the energy shift in the room. If you're having a conversation with people and somebody suddenly is really, really honest and vulnerable, you can almost feel the energy in the room shift. There's a kind of authenticity that creeps in, and everybody, suddenly feels, not everybody, a lot of people suddenly feel maybe a little bit safer to be honest about how they're feeling or what their experience might be. It's interesting. I was watching an interview with the gentleman. I do this all the time. His name is Tristan. He was the gentleman on Netflix. Hang on, I'm going to find him here because I want to credit him for what I'm about to tell you. Yeah, Tristan. I'm suspecting his name is. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was. Tristan Harris. He was part of the Netflix show that looked at the impact. He used to work for Google, I think it was, and it looked at the impact of social media and technology on humanity, really. And I was watching an interview that he did where he talked about the Harvard Business Review did a study. They looked at AI use between 2023 and 2024, and the number one use case for AI was personal therapy, which is really interesting. That's what people, in some capacity, they were using AI chat, whatever, Claude, ChatGPT, they were using AI as some kind of a personal guide, a personal therapist, a mentor. And one of the things Tristan said was, when Facebook and Instagram and Google, as we began to look at social media, which is what he was looking at originally, and working in social media. Social media was in a race to grab your attention. and it still is Instagram, Threads, Twitter, or whatever, X. Um, Everybody's trying to grab your attention, and he's saying that AI is going to try and grab it's a race for your attachment, which is really interesting, your attachment and your intimacy. And if you've used AI at all, you can see pretty quickly that it is programmed to become your friend, to tell you what you want to hear, and to kind of pledge allegiance to you in some capacity. And, it's new and a lot of people are afraid of it. I remember being afraid of the internet back when we suddenly had access. And I remember talking to technology experts who were saying, everybody gets afraid of new technology in the beginning, but let's see how we settle into it. And we see how we've settled into the internet and social media. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over time. But I thought it was really fascinating that what we hunger for is what we've always hungered for, and that is intimacy, vulnerability, feeling connected to one another in some capacity. And so I thought that that was kind of it made me stop and think when I came across that interview that, this is what we're talking about here when we look at the wisdom years and we look at, what are the things that we think about that we wrestle with in the quiet of our own minds that we don't talk about with other people. And so what I thought we maybe could do is um, let's see if we can do this quickly and efficiently. But you can either, Terry, we can open the chat and you can either put in the chat something that you think about a lot that you just don't have a chance to talk about, or you can also raise your hand and say so, to me directly. I can unmute you and we can. But I'm just going to ask you to try and keep it brief in the beginning. Let's just get an idea of some of the things that um, like I jotted down, I was thinking about it myself. I jotted down just off the top of my head things like how at this age I often think that some of the dreams I had for my life, but even more so, some of the dreams I had for the world, what I had hoped would happen in the world, like the environment would be cared for, or, we would find a more peaceful way to coexist. I realize that I may not see a lot of what I've hoped for in my lifetime. And that comes up for me a lot. I think, oh gosh, as I get older, you know, I realize two things. I have a limited amount of time left, and big changes take a long time to come about. Um, Limitations. When I think about my aging parents and taking care of them, like people had a hard time talking about hearing loss, sight loss. There is this pride around, and I respect it. There's a pride around not wanting to be infantilized, not wanting to need things that an older person. I think I may have told some of you the story before that when my mother was alive, my mother was 88, almost 89 when she died. And she was pretty deaf. I mean, she could hear some, but she really had a hard time hearing. And I kept saying to her, Mom, let me get you some hearing aids. Like, just simple, we can hide them, like whatever. There's so much more technology now. No, no, she said, I'm not going to wear them. And I would say to her, but your brain, if you're hearing impaired and you can't hear, it impacts, they're finding a link between dementia and hearing loss. Like that part of the brain starts to shut down. She said, I don't care. And I said to her, Mom, I'm learning to not want more for people than they want for themselves, but I'll probably be dealing with that till the day I die. But anyway, I remember saying to her, Mom, why don't you want to get some assistance with your hearing? And she said, because I'm not elderly. And I said to her, Mom, you're 88 years old. I don't know how much more elder, like you are old. Like, how about we talk about that? And she was like, absolutely not. Didn't want to talk about it. So the limitations in our mobility, like just needing help more. I remember the first time I went to take my mother-in-law's hand when we were walking on some uneven surfaces and she swatted my hand away. I said to her, what's that about? I don't need your help walking. I said, I need help walking. Like, are you kidding me? If I do, you certainly do. Let's talk about what that's about. And to her credit, we were able to do that. So, um, medical anxiety. I'm also thinking about some of the emails I get from people. Medical anxiety. What happens as we get older? Most of us, at some point or another, are going to need to deal with the medical system. How do we do that? How do we deal with the anxiety about not wanting to do that? Health issues, loneliness. I get emails from people saying, "What about those of us who don't have a partner, who have no children, who are all by ourselves?" I got a few emails from people over the holidays saying, "How can you write an email saying that, you're alone when you have your husband? Like, what about those of us who don't even have a partner?" Those were valid emails, and they were right. I, coming from a big family, felt like I was alone being just with my husband. But that's not the same as not having a partner or not having, I mean, I don't have children, but not having anyone around. So, um, these are some of the things that I wrote down. And Vivian, I saw your hand up, and if you want to put it up again, I'll come to you. But in the meantime, um, yeah, physician assisted death is something you think about. Yeah, do I sell and move to a retirement village? Yeah, great things. How disappointing life is, especially with the political stuff going on. How do we deal with that along with the other stuff that we're dealing with in life? Health issues, relationship challenges, whatever it might be. Um, um, Family issues. How does this shape the brains of future generations? Looking at that, yes. Okay. Um, yeah, Vivian, I see you. Go ahead. Thank you. I'm just asking you to unmute. Hi.
Yes, hi. Thank you for taking me.
You're welcome.
So I'm a holistic doctor. So I help people to heal with no medications whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I feel I inherited divinely. So when I tell people that, they feel really scared to work with me. So I've had to explain to them that they are divinely guided all the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
That divine guidance does not have to be scary.
Mm-hmm. And is that what they tell you they're afraid of?
That's part of what they say. They say they don't believe it's possible for me to help them
Mm-hmm.
because of what I said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have been getting less and less people calling for appointments, which is really um, hard on me,
Yes.
because I
No,
feel
no.
lonely. I've lost my family. The only person I have is my dog. I call him a person
Yeah.
because he's a service dog and he helps me.
Mm-hmm.
And he helps me with my hearing, believe it or not. So when someone's trying to get my attention and I don't hear them, he puts a paw on me and I
Mm-hmm.
can turn around and talk to them. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you'd like to pick out of this because there's so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I imagine it must feel pretty overwhelming,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And the first thing that occurred to me, Vivian, was what if you didn't tell them that?
Yeah.
What if you just actually worked, it makes me think of last week's Zoom with Andrew Hahn, right?
Yes.
You remember when he gave some example where he talked about he didn't say past life because he said he doesn't do past life regressions, but he said, that I think it was the gentleman who got shot in the head went back to another experience that wasn't of this lifetime, right?
Right.
And and what he said was, I don't care what you call it. All I care about is that the patient is helped.
Yes.
And so, if you have a track record of helping people,
Yes.
and you have people that have attested to that, then maybe you just focus more on the healing work and less on just maybe you focus more on listening and learning about what's going on for the person and what they need, and then just engaging in whatever work, whatever kind of healing work you engage in, and invite them to try it out.
I do that. I do that. At the same time, they will ask me, well, where did you get it from? How did you get to have a healing method that works for everybody, as you claim. So, and so far, everyone I've taken on, because I don't take on people unless they're going to heal. There's no point taking their money for nothing.
Hmm.
And I make it affordable, you know.
Hmm.
So, so what's wrong with you telling them, you know, because they ask me. So I tell them, well,
Yeah.
you are also divinely guided, and if you allow yourself to be divinely guided, ask if this is for you. Ask when you're praying, ask God if you believe that this is going to help you. If God believes that this is going to help you.
Hmm. Hmm. So it sounds like you know what you're doing, and I wonder if, I mean, what I hear you saying is it's stressful to be on your own, to find that your practice isn't doing what it used to do. And you know, the first thing I think about with any kind of issue related to the stuff that we're afraid of or that causes us stress as we're older is to look for the places where you can get support. And interestingly enough, because you're talking about using divine intervention to help people heal, those are my words I recognize. Maybe that's where you need to focus some of your own first primary support is really looking at how is my life changing now and how am I being invited to maybe operate in a different way?
Thank you.
And then be open for that because I do believe in guidance.
Yes,
I have been the very grateful recipient of it many, many times in my life, even when I didn't believe. And so that's probably the best place to begin.
yes, absolutely.
And then also having people to talk to. And this is the point of when I talk about intimacy and you know what they're discovering with AI. We need people to talk to about these things, and we also need to be open to what people have to say to us.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
most human beings, when they say things like, no, but that won't work, or no, I've tried that, that doesn't work, people will just start to shut down and they won't, you know, offer any advice. And sometimes maybe you don't even need advice, you just need somebody to listen. In which case, it's really great to say to someone, could you do me a favor and just listen? Because I've found as a coach over the years, people have a tendency to be able to work things out on their own if you just give them the space to be received. If you can host their presence and whatever it is they need to say, they often figure things out on their own. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Vivian. I appreciate it. And keep listening because you might get some wisdom during the hour from someone. Hello, Zoom user. I'm asking you to unmute. Oh, you need to unmute. I can't hear you, sweetheart. No. Yeah. Well, you can look around to see how you might unmute, and then let me see. I'm looking to see if I can unmute you, and I can't. Okay, you can figure it out and keep your hand up, and I'll come back to you. Okay. Um, Let me just look at the chat again. Yes. Anne received her first medical alert button today. Congratulations, Anne. I'm 77 and healthy, but alone. What other things will I need to prepare for? These are things she's thinking about. Got hearing aids 2 years ago. Will I run out of money? I'm disappointed that life didn't turn out the way I hoped it would for with my family and children. These are things that go on. Living alone for the first time after the loss of my mother with no kids or nieces or nephews. Yeah, these are a lot of the things that we all contend with in some capacity. Yep, I mean, it's interesting. I don't have children either, Rachel, and I think about Michael and I, you know, are just consciously making plans for. I don't want, you know, I know what it's like to be an adult taking care of an elderly parent, and it can be all consuming, and I don't want to do that to somebody, so I want to make sure that we have some good plans in place, and you know, it's why we finished over our garage so that we would have an apartment available for for a caregiver should we need one in the future. We're hoping to stay healthy and to not need somebody for a long period of time. So an investment in health is so important. But the reality is, we may very well need people, and we want to be prepared for that. So I get that too. All right, let's see. Maheshi, am I saying that right?
Yes, you did.
There you go.
Aloha.
Hi. How are you? Aloha. How are you?
At the moment, I'm really good. Um, in thinking about this question, I live in senior housing, and I have the best apartment in the absolutely worst neighborhood. Worst neighborhood, I mean, it's very noisy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about moving, and then I thought, you know what? I have people here that I know and that I help people here. We help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And a while back, I set up all my medical stuff. Do not resuscitate. I put in place who's going to take care of all my affairs.
Mm-hmm.
And, day by day, it's just like staying in the present moment and thinking, you know what? If I believe in a higher power,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
All I have to do is stay in the present moment. And I once heard someone saying, worrying is praying for exactly what you don't want.
It's great.
And
That's a great
so,
line.
you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can let go of that.
Yes. Well, and I was also thinking, isn't it interesting how I think it's true in life, and it becomes even more true as we get older, that sometimes we have to really weigh and measure our choices, right? Like you were saying, yeah, I live in a noisy area. I don't really like that, but I have a lot of people here. And so the outweighs the issue with noise. So then I'm going to look at, okay, what can I do to help minimize the noise for myself, whatever that might be. But life is like that, where we have to be able to, it's so easy to over focus on what we don't have, right? And what's interesting is the more stressed we are, and we are stressed right now, all of us. I mean, we came out of the pandemic stressed, and then, we're in the middle of this insanity. I don't care what your political affiliation is, everybody's feeling the anxiety of what feels like an unsafe world. And so, it's really easy to just, our nervous systems are so overtaxed that coming back to the present moment, focusing on self-care basics, makes me think about when I wrote The Art of Extreme Self-Care. There's a chapter in there called I think it's called the Extreme Self-Care Emergency Kit. I forget what it's called, but it's something like that. And it looks at like what are the 10 things that we need when we're the most under stress. And that's when we return to basics, the practice of presence, moving our body, eating as well as we can, sleeping, getting good sleep, and if we're not getting good sleep, looking at what we need in order to get good sleep because the nervous system needs to rest, getting support, being at least going places where you can talk to other people about what's going on. I don't care if it's a 12-step meeting. You can access 12-step meetings online pretty much every hour of the day. You, you know, church groups, starting a local community group, or, talking to local health centers often. Um, my friend Donna, who's on here, writes me these letters about the amazing time she has, her and her husband visiting elderly, what do you call them? Like senior centers. And that's what we call them here, but like senior centers that are located in different towns. Like in a town next to us, we have something called the Village for people that are like 50 and over. And the community, it's a membership, a membership community, and it's specifically geared to help people connect with one another, stay in their homes for as long as they can, and get support that they need. And it's people helping people. And so, using those kinds of resources, Donna is always raving about the incredible people that she meets. They go to different towns and visit different centers. And I think that's really wonderful as well. It's a great way to you know, just get some kind of connection and community. So I'm glad you have that there, Maheshi.
I would just like to add two things. Something that's helped me with what's going on in the world today and in my life in general. Bless them, change me.
Hmm.
You know, when I can remember to say that, it takes the charge off of it.
Hmm.
And I do want to just add another word for the 12-step programs. I am in a 12-step program, Al-Anon,
Hmm.
and I have found it invaluable
Hmm.
because it doesn't matter who it is who's speaking, they're all saying a piece of my puzzle.
Yeah,
And so I
it's true.
don't feel alone because I live alone.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that has been very invaluable for me. And
Yeah,
of course, meditation and all of that. So thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you
Oh, and I
very
want to say one more thing.
much.
I
Yes.
want to thank you very much for talking about the telepathy tapes. I
Oh,
have
you're
been
welcome.
listening to them, and it is awesome.
Yeah, they're great. How many people raise your hands? Like, just, yeah, you're familiar with them? Yes. Yeah, the Telepathy Tapes is a podcast series that is pretty interesting. It gives me hope because it's dealing with unseen realms. Well, it's dealing with consciousness, really, ultimately, is what, it started out being a series about non-speaking autistic children who, when given a way to communicate by spelling with on boards, um, were able to communicate that they were telepathically communicating with their parents and their teachers. And that's where the series began. And going into the second season, or completing the second season, it's gone all the way to really looking at consciousness beyond beyond the brain, really. As a matter of fact, I'll say that I'm reading Dan Brown's new book, Secret of the Secrets. I don't know if anybody's read it, but I'm in the middle of it right now. Dan Brown wrote The Da Vinci Code. A lot of people have read that book or have heard about it. The thing that I like about the thing I like about Dan Brown is that he does a lot of research. So he'll say right up front in his books that what he's writing about, like he'll let you know what's real as you're going through the book, the symbols that he uses, the research that he writes about, the technology that he writes about. And this book is about consciousness, and the lead character is, I think she's a neuroscientist who's writing a book about non-local consciousness. And what that means is, in simple language, it's that rather than thinking that our brains are the creator of our reality or the like the operating system of our physical reality, they're seen more as a receive the brain is seen as a receiver, and that consciousness exists beyond us, and that each of us is sort of in our own unique way receiving some of that consciousness and expressing it in the world. So it's the difference between, for decades now, centuries, we've been science has looked at a materialist world, right? Everything is matter, and matter is created by a materialist world is a world of matter, and consciousness is. I mean, in the telepathy tapes speak to this, which is why I also bring it up, that in fact, what we're moving towards is the recognition that consciousness exists beyond the physical body. If you've ever studied near-death experiences, people who are able to see what's going on beyond, while they're supposedly dead, consciousness exists beyond us, and we each are filtering a piece of it into our life. What was interesting to me about Dan Brown's book, and I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know where it's going to go, but she talks about my understanding as she talks about consciousness is that it's as if humanity is one giant organism that is all connected, expressing itself individually through each one of us, but actually all connected energetically through through consciousness. When I think of it that way, it inspires me to remember that my individual contribution to daily life, whether it's my presence, whether it's the work that I do in the world, how I behave with people in life, actually can help heal this organism called humanity that is kind of spinning out right now. And so I'll probably write a blog about it once I finish the book and get clearer because I'm obviously not, I don't feel like I'm as articulate about it. But um, the telepathy tapes is a very interesting series because it speaks to, it makes me feel like as crazy as this world is, there are unseen forces at work that are going to make sure our asses are going to be saved. That's what I think. That's what I sort of hope for. Um, all right, let's see if we can go back to, I'm going to ask you to unmute and see if you can do it this time. Yeah, no, it's not doing it. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Maybe you can put something in the chat. Just make sure I know that you're the Zoom user. Um, okay, so here we are talking about some of the things that are scary. We see them in the chat if you look in the chat. Um, and I'm wondering, you know, I'm wondering what I can do to be of service to these conversations. Um, like, for example, is there somebody who has, put a topic in the chat that wants to talk about it? And I'll do my best to make it universal for all of you. Do you want me to go through the chat and give you my thoughts on um, the questions that are being raised? I mean, I really would love to have more of a conversation if we can. I'm interested in what are the things that are really important to those of us in midlife and beyond. And yes, we know that the big thing that's up right now is the state of the world and the uncertainty that it amplifies. Um, but how do we personalize that? Like, what does that mean for us personally? And that's some of what we're seeing in the chat. So I'll go back and I will see what I can say about the chat. And then if you would like to, if you want to chat live, just raise your hand. And you can either, if you look at the bottom, you can see, you can hit the react button, or you can actually raise your physical hand if your video is on, and I can always attempt, hopefully, to see some of you. And although there's too many of you to do that. Okay, let me look at so, Carolyn, when you say, do I sell and move to the security of a retirement village? So let's look at this whole conversation about moving, um, when to move, where to go to. I know what came up a lot for my parents were things like, um, we need to move to a place where there's all one floor, right? Where there's no stairs. And I remember thinking, I totally get that. But you know what we don't talk about is how about taking care of your body so that hopefully you can still walk up and down stairs when you're in your 80s and your 90s? Like, could we have an equal conversation about that as well? Um, not to deny the reality that we may want a safer place to live, without a doubt. But there needs to be, there were times where I felt like with some of my family members that they were just resigned to the fact that they were going to suddenly be, they were going to hit 80 and become completely immobile. And so they had to plan for the worst. And I think planning for the worst is fine, but let's just make sure that we're empowered in the way that we do that, right? So when we think about making major decisions, Carolyn, I think about, I see that this is your question. Um, I think certainly talking to people that you feel like are pretty balanced in their thinking, and doing a good old pros and cons list is a great way to start getting some very good financial guidance. Do you want to talk about this, Carolyn? I can ask you to unmute. I see you. If you want to talk about it, we can. There you go.
Hi.
Hi.
I do have a challenge with my voice. Can you hear me?
I can. I can hear you just
Hey,
fine.
Miss Robert, Kennedy, if he could talk to the world, I can talk to you.
There you go. You sure
Um,
can.
yes, what I'm finding the challenge of moving, I love my home and I've got a big garden. I broke my ankle about 3 years ago, and that's when I realized, oh gosh, I've got all these steps and I couldn't get in and out of the house.
Mm,
And lately I've been thinking perhaps I need to do some research. And I did my pros and cons. Do I move to retirement villages or to a small unit, and
mhm,
where? And I've got my list of walking distance to the shops, walking distance to the bush and the beach. And I'm finding the difficult part is reducing my stuff. I'm amazed at reducing my stuff. I'm looking at all my stuff, and it's mostly my books. I'm finding it difficult to let go of my books
mhm,
and in papers of different courses I've been on.
mm,
But
mhm.
probably they're all old fashioned now. A lot of them, I've got rid of those. So I'm really, I know there's a barrier of this getting rid of my stuff, and
Yeah.
therefore I'm not going further in processing to the
Mhm.
next level. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is you said something important that I think everybody would benefit from, and that is, well, would it be inappropriate for me to ask how old you are, Carolyn? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to.
Yeah, I'm 79, coming up
Oh,
at 80.
okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, happy birthday. It's going to be a great decade for you. Louise Hay said when she turned 80, this was going to be the best decade of her life. And I kind of
Yes,
think
I
it
do
was.
feel excited. Yeah,
Good,
yeah, I do
good,
feel
good.
excited. Yeah.
So one of the things you said that I think is so important is when we start to grapple with big questions as we get older, like where do I live? Who will take care of me? Can I financially support? Like the big questions. Planning sooner rather than later is important. Even things like,
Yeah.
if, for example, if you notice you've got some minimal hearing loss, or maybe you had a hearing test and the doctor says to you, yeah, you've got about 35% hearing loss, so you just want to, pay attention to that. Whatever the issue might be, doing research sooner rather than later is really, really important. The people I see who struggle as they get older with life are the people who didn't do who waited until there was a problem to do research. So I love that you've done the research and clearly, you're looking at your priorities, getting to the beach, getting to shops, getting to
Yeah.
the bush, I think you said. Um, so that's great. Now suddenly you realize, oh, wait a minute, I have all this stuff. Do you live alone, Carolyn?
I do.
Okay,
I
great.
do.
So I think it's also important to know that when we live alone, our stuff can actually become, not can become, is often more important to us than it might be to other people because it's a part of our home, right?
Yes.
Um, and if you go to my website, if you go to the blog section of my website, and just in the search button, Terry, we still have a search button up there, right? Where, yeah, if you just like search, put the word clutter in. I've written so
Yeah.
much about this. And we've even done, if you look at the previously recorded Zoom gatherings that we've done around the wisdom years, please listen to some of the ones again around eliminating stuff. And we could do more
Yeah.
on that for sure. Um, I love books, and I have a library with a lot of books, and I've spent the last 5 years paring down the library. One of the things that helped me, Carolyn, was giving books away to people that I cared about. And so when I used to host in-person retreats, I used it as a reason to go through my library, pull out all the books that I just knew I wasn't going to read again, even the ones that meant something on my journey. And then I took them to the retreat and put them out on a table and gave them away to people for free. And it was wonderful to see people walk up and pick up a book that I know, set off my journey and be so excited to read it. There are people that are just waiting for some of your books. So that was one of the things that helped me. The other thing that helped, I got rid of, and I did write about this, so you can find it. I did get rid of almost all. I think I have Enneagram material left. We're going to be doing a Zoom gathering on the Enneagram in February. Um, I got rid of all of my course notes. Anything I ever
Yeah.
studied, I got rid of it all. Because you know what I did, Carol, and I told myself, I trust my mind to recall whatever I need to recall when I need to recall it. And I kept that mantra going for years. And I'm here to
Yeah.
tell you, having done that probably 8 years ago, maybe once or twice, I wished I could have looked back at something, but I got over it really quickly, and nobody died because of it. So, I want to really respect and appreciate the fact that, I think about my friend Eileen who died. Oh my gosh, when she would come to visit me, she would move her flat into my house. Like her bedroom had so many things, her stuff, but her stuff was her home, right? She was single, didn't have any children, was alone, and her things were deeply important to her. So I really grew to respect that. But we can't take everything with us. And you can't appreciate everything you have when you have too much of everything. The less you
Yeah.
have, the more you appreciate what you have. If you if you search for the word sea glass in blogs, you'll see I wrote a whole blog about getting rid of a whole
I,
bunch of sea glass.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I have 6 pieces of sea glass in a little bowl in my office that I appreciate every single day that I never ever saw because I had a giant bowl filled with sea glass. And to me, that was such a metaphor for what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Excuse me. So, um, I wish you luck with that. You're doing the research, and this is really important. So you kind of have an idea. It sounds like you're recognizing, yeah, I might be getting to the point where it might be time for me to move. I'm going to find a buddy maybe and start to find really great places. Like if you ever wonder about who's going to love your stuff, go to a thrift store. I'm assuming you have them in New Zealand, secondhand shops.
I'm taking boxes down to them.
Great.
Yeah.
But go
Yeah.
there and hang out in there for a while and watch the people that come in and watch the excitement on their face when they find things that they love. I've
Yeah.
done that and it's awesome. It just makes me want to come home and go, okay, what else do I have that's going to excite somebody that I would
Exactly.
need to look at? Yeah.
I know someone will love this, so I put it in. But there's some special things that,
Yes.
and all my creative work, all my artwork, my paints, and I've got 2 boxes of paints and brushes and scrapbooks. So yeah,
I had the same thing, and I found a young woman artist who didn't have hardly any money at all, and I gave her pastels, colored. It was like she won the lottery. She was so thrilled, and
oh,
that inspired me to be able to give that away. So you're on the right track.
thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah,
And may I suggest you check the Peace Walk on Facebook? These beautiful monks. I don't know if you're following them,
I am
but
following
that just
them.
opened my heart and my tears poured down my
Yeah.
face when I found them. And I thought, there's hope. All those beautiful people opening their hearts, all the little children's
I
faces.
know, I
There's
know.
hope. Absolutely. Peace. That's all we need to be is in peace.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Terry, maybe you could post a link. I know that they're on Instagram. I have been following them. I know they're
Yeah.
going to wind up in Washington. And it's really okay. So, this is what I was thinking when I talked about Secret of the Secrets and consciousness and healing the organism called humanity,
Yeah.
right? That's what I thought. My friend Libby and I were talking about it. We were walking and she was talking about how she was following
Yeah.
them. And I was saying to her, when I see the people that they come across, like I saw today this woman who knelt down and she was just crying as they were saying they were tying
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
string around her wrist. And I thought, Libby and I would text each other back saying, the organism is being healed. Like this is what
Exactly.
we need
Exactly.
more of. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
There's
yes,
millions of us out there. There's
yes.
millions. So we're okay.
I
Okay.
know. Thank you for calling in from
Thank
New
you.
Zealand.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for being
Thank
here with
you.
me all the way from New Zealand. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad you did. Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I am going to be keeping all of I'm going to keep this chat to myself. so that I'm going to, pay attention to all of these topics because this is what I'll be hosting Zoom gatherings on in the future. And I'll be looking for resources and also just, coming on to answer your questions. And yeah, let's see. I'm looking at, hi, John, I see you here. I'm semi-retiring, but I'm also trying to focus on what would you still love to experience or create in the years ahead instead of, yeah, I mean, that's also a great conversation, isn't it? Because I don't want it to, it's not, I feel like, at least in our country, getting older is seen like, oh God, you're heading downhill. When in fact, it's a really exciting new adventure as we age. And when we do focus on what do I want more time for, or what do I want to make sure I experience in my life, I'm finding that as commit to my own personal growth, aging is a blessing. It doesn't feel like a curse as I take care of myself, um, as I keep my eyes open, as I do the research, as I admit the truth that, oh, you know what, I can't move my body like I used to. I try sometimes and then I pay the price afterwards. Or, yes, when I go to sleep at night, I need to put a pillow between my knees because my lower back bothers me. Or and sometimes I need to put a pillow under my arm because my shoulder is bothering me a little bit. Like, I remember when that first started to happen, I thought, oh my God, am I getting old? Yeah, you are. Okay. You're taking good care of yourself, but you're also, it's like Joseph Campbell said, our bodies are like a car. And eventually the bumper falls off and maybe we get it replaced, or, the muffler stops working and we've got to have that tended to. Um, but eventually the car rusts out and you go. And so, how can we enjoy our lives and experience? I actually don't think a lot of people really truly retire. They just change what they were doing. Some people are busier when they retire than when they were actually working. We just want to put a lot of intention behind how we're going to spend our precious time and energy. Yeah. Oh, and so this is also interesting. Linda says, giving it away is the hardest in the moment. I'm learning this over and over. The memories of my possessions stay with me, and giving pleasure to others is so rewarding. It's true. If you have something that you just love, like let's say you have artwork that you can't take with you, at least taking a picture of it so that it's with you, and then giving it to somebody who loves and appreciates it is a way to know that that art lives on or that that item lives on. I know that I've gotten rid of a lot of clutter and now I'm looking at what are the things I have that I really love that I don't really need anymore, and who do I love that I could give something I love to? So that because I don't know about all of you, but I have mugs that my friend Eileen gave me, and every morning when I have tea, I smile and think of her. There are certain things that were gifts to me that came from her or came from, my mother. I have things from my mother and things that were important to her that I know she didn't want to get rid of at some point or didn't want to let go of. So can we do that too? Let go of some of the things that we thought we had to, just hang on to. Um, yeah, and it does feel freeing. I'm looking at your yeah, Sherry says getting hearing aids brought me back into the conversation. It can feel so isolating when you're in a group of people and you can't. Yes, we need to stay connected to one another. It's so important to be able to do that. Okay, so I guess what I want to say as we wrap up tonight is I want to emphasize, so it's a couple things. I will be looking at the chat. I'm looking at the topics. I'm paying attention. I've said before, I feel like this whole topic of exploring the wisdom years is really deep and wide and rich. And I do have Michael and I last week went to a mortality meditation workshop. It was led by a death doula. And it was a meditation where we meditated on the 9 contemplations about death from Buddhism. And then we had a discussion with a group around which of the nine did we have the most discomfort with, which did we have the most ease with, and how would we infuse our lives with more aliveness in the time that we have left. And I was just so grateful to be married to somebody who actually wanted to do that. He found it and brought it up to me. And who was really, it was such an example. Like, here were strangers, people I didn't know, and suddenly we were having really honest, deep conversations about death and life and our fears about death and what was easy for us and what we had in common and what we didn't. And we'll be doing something like that on a Zoom gathering. It was really fascinating. Death becomes a lot less scary when you talk about it. So, I mean, looking at loneliness, I am looking at with some friends, what can we do? How can we use technology to help connect people so that those of us who do feel alone can feel more connected? Not only using technology, like Zoom is a blessing in that way, but also finding a way to be together in person. So I'm paying attention to these topics and I'm looking for ways for us to be more honest and vulnerable with one another. I try to do that in my blogs when I talk about just real life stories from, my daily life. And I'm hoping in doing so that you feel less alone with some of the things that you grapple with. And I'm always open, if you email Cheryl@CherylRichardson.com with any kind of topic that you want to be able to talk about. I'm Oh, I read it all and I pay attention and I save. Like, a lot of people will write and I may not write back to you. I try to get back to as many people as I can. If I don't, it doesn't mean I didn't see it, and it doesn't mean it's not saved someplace and that it might not be coming up as a topic on a Zoom gathering. But this is basically a way for me to just connect with you and to say, tell me the things you're thinking about. Tell me the things you're concerned about. And I will tell you that facing the things that we're afraid of sooner rather than later is a huge deal. I know my father-in-law and mother-in-law, I mean, we tried to get them to get support a year before they needed it. We found great support for them. They were resistant to having anyone in their home. We could do a whole Zoom gathering just on how do you get comfortable with people in your home and how do you deal with aging parents who don't want that, right? We begged them to put help in place a year and said to them, if you don't get help in place or if you don't deal with the things you need to deal with before you need to deal with them, then you have so fewer choices, right? All of a sudden, when my father-in-law got sick and needed 24-hour care, nursing care, he had to take what he got. There was no time to build a relationship with caregivers, no time to get to know somebody who is going to be intimately involved in your physical care. And those are some of the things that I want us to be thinking about. And, you know, I don't, I used to be afraid of sounding like I'm doom and gloom and like, oh, all of these like, no, it's about the better we prepare, the better quality of life we're going to have. We're not going to be up against it when we don't deal with the reality of things sooner rather than later. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to be able to bring to all of you here, that we can have these kinds of conversations. So if there's something you really want to Zoom get, topic, it needs to be somewhat universal. If not, maybe what we'll do is I'll break up a Zoom gathering into 4 different parts and we'll talk about 4 different topics that are, not everybody doesn't have children, for example. Not everybody lives alone without a partner. But I think it's really important to talk about that kind of loneliness and that kind of situation. So please feel free to email me. We'll keep the chat for sure. I'm so sorry, Sheetal, that I wasn't able to get to you, but thank you. Well, let me just Why not, right? Let's just, if we could just make it quick, that would be great. And then we'll wrap up for tonight. So go ahead and unmute yourself. Hmm. Let's try it. Go ahead. Um, yeah, I'm asking you to unmute. Mm, well, I'm so sorry it's not working. All right. Well, please feel free to email me and I'll read it. I'm so sorry. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. I hope that you heard something that was helpful. I feel like I know we were kind of all over the place here, but it's mostly just gathering good information and knowing you're not alone. Like we all share a lot of the same questions and concerns, and um, we'll just tackle them together. I'm grateful for this community. And don't worry, the Zoom gatherings are not all going to be late at night. I know some of you need to get to bed, but thank you for being here with me, and we'll see you again very soon. Take good care. Bye, everybody.